we're talking about, we're continuing Parshas Emor in Likutei Sichot Aleph. We're talking about the importance of Sfirat HaOmer and how that gives a special importance to the month of Iyar. Because the month of Iyar, every day, is involved with this mitzvah. And what is the mitzvah? Counting the day, counting the Omer. Now, what does it mean, counting the Omer? It just happens to be that the first day after the Jews left Egypt, they made us, and the years after that, anyway, when they came into Israel, the first day after Pesach, they made a Omer offering. Omer offering. When the Jews left Egypt, they didn't make the Omer offering because they didn't have any land, they didn't have any barley. But so this mitzvah became known as Usfartem, the counting. It became counting the days of the Omer. What was this Omer? They brought barley. So the Rebbe asked, first of all, why is this sacrifice that begins the days of the Omer, why was it barley? All the other sacrifices were wheat. The only other sacrifice that was barley was the sacrifice brought by the Sota. Sota was a woman whose husband suspects her of infidelity. So those are the only two that are brought from barley. Another question is, on Passover, Pesach has a connection to the holiday of Shavuot. The reason that the Jewish people got out of Egypt, that's what God told Moses on the burning bush, that you're getting out of Egypt in order to serve me on this mountain, in order to receive the Torah, to know how to serve me properly. Well, Pesach, it was one of the worst sins in Judaism, is to eat unleavened is rising up. And it was to eat chametz on Pesach, to eat leavened bread on Pesach. One of the worst sins. But in the Beit HaMikdash also, it was forbidden to bring leavened bread. It was forbidden to bring chametz. Huh?
You weren't allowed to burn it on the altar.
You weren't allowed to bring it in the Beit HaMikdash at all. The only time you could, there was a toda, a Thanksgiving offering, and on Shavuot, the offering on Shavuot. Why Shavuot is supposed to be connected to Pesach? Pesach was forbidden chametz. Why all of a sudden on Shavuot it was a commandment you had to bring chametz into the Beis HaMikdash. That was the offering on chametz, 2 shtei lechem, this is the 2 loaves. Why? Now the Rebbe is going to explain. Chet. Shlosha enyanim amurim. 3 things that we spoke about are hinted at in the pasuk, the sentence in Shir HaShirim. Shir HaShirim is a love song written by King Solomon. The love song is between God and the Jewish people. And it says, Mashcheni acharecha nerutza, Haviani amelech chadarav. Draw me after you and we will run together. The king has brought me into his chambers. The poem Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, is the only book in the whole Bible that has no simple meaning to it. Everything is allegorical and metaphors. So this is a metaphor for the holiday of Passover, counting the Omer, and receiving the Torah. Mashacheni acharecha, draw me after you, we will run together. And the king has brought me into his inner chambers. Draw me after you, that talks about the month of Yetziat Mitzrayim, when the Jews went out of Egypt. God pulled the Jews. his beloved. He pulled them out of Egypt. We will run together. This is talking about the counting of the Omer, the counting of these 50 days. And the king brought me into his inner palace, into his inner room. That's when God gave us the Torah. The difference between draw me after you and running is in a number of ways. I have dealt bein mashicha laritza, the difference between pulling somebody and running together with them, and also that what it says, what the difference between drawing me after you. This is the request of the Jewish people to God. God, please pull me after you. Give us inspiration, motivation. Acharecha nerutza, and then we will run after you on our own. But we have to be jump-started. Mashcheni also is singular. You draw me, singular. We will run is plural. What is this talking about? When the Jewish people were in Egypt, they were sunk in what was called the 49 gates of selfishness, of Tuma. 49 levels, deeper and deeper levels of impurity. V'lo hayu kelim le'elokut. They were so tremendously selfish, they could not possibly connect in any way to God. Like it says, At Aron va'aryeh. Like it says, one of the prophets, you are Jewish people, you were naked and barren. The Jewish people had nothing. But what? God himself revealed himself unto the Jewish people. You have to remember the Jewish people were slaves. Not only were they slaves, they were the sons of slaves, and their fathers had been sons of slaves, and their grandfathers had been sons of slaves. Then all of a sudden God revealed himself and schlepped all the Jews out of Egypt. At first they didn't even want to leave. And he took them all out on his own. Since that this did not come by means of the service of the Jews did absolutely nothing. God just pushed them out, drew them out. Therefore it did not change them in an inner way. These people were still essentially the servant. They were waiting for orders from Paro. They were not vessels to be connected in any way to the creator of the universe. Or in simple language of the language of Chassidut, the revelation that was of godliness and all the miracles that were in godliness and the power that they saw and the freedom that they got had no effect on their personality. It only affected their Jewish soul. In other words, it awakened the fact that they had a Jewish identity. It awakened the fact that they're Jews. It awakened in them that there is such a thing as God, and that God really cares about them, and that God really deals with them. But on the other hand, they didn't know who they themselves are. What does God want from all this business? He's freeing me for what? Who is he freeing? What is he doing? Why is he taking me out of Egypt? Maybe just to alleviate all the suffering that we had. Get rid of the suffering. Now I can do what I want. Right? Maybe that's the point of taking us out of Egypt. Every Jew there thought, I don't know what's the point over here. I'm very happy God is taking me out. It's like letting all the people out of prison. Right? You let them out of prison, you don't know what to do with it. Right? There's something. It's almost like, there's this thing called the bends. If a person is deep sea diving and he comes up too fast, so when you're under the sea, there's all this pressure. You come up, the pressure goes off too quick, as it can be very dangerous. Same thing. The Jews were in Egypt. They were always under pressure. Their lives were always in danger. If they didn't do exactly what Paro said, they didn't provide the allocated amount of bricks or whatever, then they would get killed. Always had pressure. As soon as they got out, there was no pressure. Very dangerous thing. So what did it affect, though? Why did God take them out? This affected their Jewish soul. It affected their Jewish soul. Now, in the Tanya, it explains that every Jew has two souls. Every Jew has actually two selves. It's not exactly a split personality. Because a split personality, usually only one of them is true, or neither one of them is true. Here we have a split personality that both of them are true. It's just that the godly soul is connected to the Creator, and the animal soul is not connected to the Creator. So therefore it makes all sorts of bizarre mistakes and confusion. Right? Like putting a person in a dark room or putting a blind person in a maze. He's there, he doesn't know what to do. Right?
You can say somewhat that the godly soul is hidden and the animal soul is revealed.
Revealed, right. But what happens when the godly soul is also revealed, but the animal soul has not been fixed up? In other words, the Jew is all of a sudden, you're a Jew, you're free, you can do what you want. Right? So he says, good, I'm free, I can do what I want. But my animal soul also has things that it wants to do. My nature, right? A person's nature. Let's say a person he likes to eat good food. You can sit and learn as much Torah as you want to. You can sit and put on tefillin as much as you want to. You're never going to get that same satisfaction as eating a good meal. Right? But let's say a person is a connoisseur of music. He loves music. He can learn Torah, he can do commandments, but he's never going to get the same pleasure from learning Torah and doing the commandments as he gets from music if he really loves music. He'll have to a little bit forego this pleasure of music. You can't play music on Shabbat. There's certain music you're not supposed to listen to. Right? So what the idea is, there has to be a certain amount of what we call self-control. And the Jews didn't have it. They had no motivation to do it. Their godly soul was wakened up. So they said, okay, I'll do godly things and do mitzvahs, but I'll also do whatever, I'll do whatever I want. Who is me? They don't know. So I'll put on tefillin and I'll do these other things. But I also like to eat, a little...
This was a big problem.
Big problem.
That's why this generation, they couldn't overcome their...
That's why they had to have Sfirat Omer. We'll see. That's why they had to have Sfirat Omer. That's why it says in the Tanya, very interesting, it says, Kain Masbir Ari Admor Zakin. This is what the Alter Rebbe explains at the Katuv, but it says Ki Barach Am. Shekain lo muvan, it's not understood. Shari lo haya mitztave paro haya mitztave paro l'shachrer la'olam. After Paro had been smitten with all these plagues, he would have let them go, no problem. Haya ne'elatz lasota. He would have had to release them. Why did the Jewish people have to run away? The Alter Rebbe explains they had to run away because if they wouldn't have run out, they would have stayed there. It was home for them. Haya ra b'bnei Yisrael b'takfu. Haya b'hechrach libruach. They had to get out. Right? Like there's people who are addicted to video games. Right? The only way you can stop them is by destroying all their video games. You can't, if they're in a room where there's a video game, I'll just play for a couple seconds. Then 3 days later, right, he's still playing the same game. He hasn't slept and he hasn't eaten, he hasn't done anything. Right? He just all of a sudden, that's it. You can't, and he's a big rabbi and he gives lectures and his congregation is waiting for him and etc. But as soon as he gets on those video games, he's finished. Right? He's just finished. He can't do so. He has to force himself not to do it. No, who wants to force themselves? Let's do both. What's the problem? The joke, that's the joke about the Jew with the 7 refrigerators. Remember the Jew with the refrigerator? A Jew comes from Russia, comes into Israel, he brings 7 refrigerators. He says, I'm sorry, sir, but you're only allowed 1 refrigerator from me. He says, 1 refrigerator? What are you people are a bunch of Nazi bastards? What are you a bunch of anti-Semites? I don't believe this. Excuse me, sir, I don't. What are you yelling at for? This is, I need one for milchiks and one for fleishiks. So they say, okay, all right, good. You're right. We didn't think of that. I'm sorry. The fact is, we really, we're not really taking the religious people. So that's 2. But there's 5 more. What do you have 5 more? I just can't believe you people. He says, first of all, I have to have another one, milchiks and fleishiks, and another one for parve. Parve. There's such a thing as parve? Yeah, there is. Ask a rabbi. Calls him up and says, all right, you're right. Okay, so that's 3. He says, I don't believe you people are just such a bunch of idiots, donkeys. Pesach! There's Pesach! You have to have milchik and fleishik and parva for Pesach! Says, Passover. All right. I mean, you can't kosher it's not, I'm an ultra-Orthodox Jew. We don't kosher our refrigerators. We need new ones. I need another one for Pesach. It says, okay, all right, good. Let's say we'll make an exception and we'll let the 6 through. But why do you have to have 7? What's the 7th one? It says, once in a while, I like to eat a little bit of treifus. What's around?
When I grew up, we had 3 sets of dishes. For me, for dairy, and for Chinese dinner.
I like to eat a little bit of not kosher food, a little of the ham. What's the problem? In other words, it is a religious Jew. He is. But like you say, honesty is the best policy sometimes. Once in a while, it doesn't take away the fact that he eats not kosher food, does not take away from the fact that he's a genuine religious Jew. Doesn't take away from the fact. So that's the whole idea. The Jews, when they left Egypt, they were left with 7 refrigerators. They had for Pesach and they had but they also had their refrigerator for the non-kosher stuff. They liked it. And it says that's why they had to run out, because if they didn't run out, they would have 9 refrigerators. They'd have one for not kosher meat, one for not kosher milk, and one for not kosher parva, fish. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it says mashcheni acharecha. So we're going to get to that's the whole reason for Sfirat Omer. That's why it says in Song of Songs that they asked God, pull us out. Lashon Meshicha means kinyan be'amtzaut Meshicha eno doma lekinyan be'amtzaut chazaka. Taking possession of something by means of drawing it is not the same thing as by means of, holding it. Be'kinyan Meshicha eno adam osa davar be'atzam achafetz. When a person draws something, what happens is you draw something into your possession. You buy a guitar from someone, so it's the same guitar, you just pull it, moshech oto to your elishu over mirishut amocher l'rishut. Instead of being your guitar, it becomes my guitar. Same thing when the Jews, when they left Egypt, there was no change in the Jews. God just drew them out. He pulled them out, and that's what the Jews asked God. They said, God, listen, we're not going to change. Don't wait for us to change. We're never going to leave Egypt. Pull us out the way we are. Make what we call a Mashiach. Draw us out. Right? When you draw something out, you take possession. Like I said, it just comes from this person's domain into my domain, but it remains the same thing. Bitoy Emor al pula milamayla, which is not the case chazaka. Chazaka, you can make, if you make a change in the thing, then it becomes yours. That's called a chazaka. Bitoy Emor al pula milamayla, shekein lo ayasa mitzad b'nei Israel avodah. The Jewish people are saying, God, you have to do it alone. Not only are we not going to change, we can't go out even unchanged on our own. You have to do the whole thing. We want to go out, can't do it. Number 3, it's alone. Yeshiva Ohr Tmimim Rav Lenefesh Elokit. This only reveals to the godly soul. What's the purpose of the whole business? Let's just do one more and that's it. The whole idea of going out of Egypt is that the godly soul, in other words, your awareness that there is God and that God is good and that God cares and God creates us and God is all powerful and God expects us to do things in partnership with Him. these feelings that you have of the reality that there is God and that I'm a creation, this reality, which is called the godly soul, will refine the animal soul. Not that you'll become a monk or you'll become a nun or something and you'll stop dealing with the world totally. You won't have any connection with the world. No. Your connection with the world will be in the way that God wants it to be. If we're talking about only the godly soul, so God could have done a very simple thing. He could have left the soul above. Listen, either way, God could have just killed all the Jews, taken all their souls up to heaven, and then everyone would have gone out of Egypt, right? Free at last. God could have done that. There would have been nothing wrong with that. God can do whatever he wants. Take them all to heaven. Heaven is certainly better than any place in this world. Going to heaven, that would have been better. No, God took them out of Egypt and he left them in the world. Why did he do that? So that we will purify the world. If it was only the godly soul should have stayed up in the beginning. Even more, why did God even put the godly soul into the physical world at all? Forget about going into Egypt. The reason it's down here is so the godly soul will purify and refine the natural human animal personality. Like it says, B'chol levavecha, you should love God with all of your hearts. And the rabbis say with your two impulses. Mitoch kaksha nefesh elokis mevareres, because the godly soul refines the animal soul. So this elevates also the godly soul in its ability with the power of the animal soul. Like it says, Rav Tavuz B'kochsha. What is the animal soul? The animal soul is excitement, fire. What's the godly soul? The godly soul is calm. The godly soul is godliness, certain, no problems. God is everywhere. God always was. God always will be. God creates everything. There's no reason to worry. No reason to get excited about anything. Right? The animal soul, on the other hand, is always excited. The animal soul is, I don't have things. I want new things. I don't want to lose what I've got. Maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe this has doubts. It has problems. This. The animal soul is always moving. Right? There's different animal souls. There's animal people. Some animal souls like a sheep, like a. The goal is supposed to be that the godly soul utilizes this energy and this heat, this excitement from the natural soul in order to serve God. Another way of simple saying it, what is the animal soul? The animal soul is me. The animal soul is the person's personality himself. The things that you like, the things that you don't like, your personality, who you are. The idea is to utilize these things in a positive way. The godly soul in itself is missing one big thing, and that's happiness. It's happy, but it's not joy. Let's say, not joy. It's happy in a natural state. It's like a person who was born into a good family, and he was intelligent, and he was learning Torah, and never did any sins. Everything is very nice. Everything is very nice. But there's no joy, excitement. The animal soul gives the godly soul excitement because the animal soul is created by the same God that the godly soul is created by. It's two different senses that a person has. I have Del Ben Adam, the difference between a man and an animal is Ratzono Rikshav Tosel Adam. The feelings of a person, since a human being is intelligent, so it's not so powerful, but they are controlled. A person as his mind can control his emotions. But on the other hand, an animal, whatever he wants is in a tremendous power. So in a person also, the desire of the godly soul is not so powerful and excited as the animal soul is. When the godly soul has an effect on the animal soul, then what happens? The godly soul can utilize this energy. Or another way of saying, your Jewish self can utilize your natural self to make the world a better place. That's like one big difference between, let's say, Chabad and a lot of the other groups. A lot of the other groups, Chassidic groups, they make a very big emphasis on being separate, not allowing the world to have a negative effect on them. Right? This is a very valuable thing, a very, very important thing. So they dress differently. They want to look differently than everybody else so that they always remember we are Jews. A Jew does not act like a non-Jew, doesn't talk like a non-Jew. We are God's people.
They help reinforce each other in their life.
Right. The only problem with that is that it's not really happy. It's not really, outgoing. Or let's say in another way, they don't utilize all of their potential that they have. Right? There's a lot of these people, I don't think a lot of them, I think all of them, right? Chassidic Ger, Chassidic Business, Chassidic Gor, the Litvische Jews, all these, they have tremendous potentials to do good, to benefit the world in a lot of ways. I'm not talking about being doctors or lawyers, just to say a good morning to people, just to be around in the world that people can see how the Torah affects somebody in a positive way, right? But they don't want to show it, and they have good reason not to show it, because the world is a very, very dangerous and enticing and confusing place, right? Very confusing, and very depressing, very, right?
You always said to me, everyone's got their own path.
It's true. But that's what the Rebbe is saying now. The ideal is the godly soul should affect the animal soul. According to this, we can understand why is it that the offering for the Omer was of animal food, because why it's called counting the Omer, because this whole counting from Pesach to Shavuot is supposed to be to purify, to refine your animal soul by means of your godly soul. And the animal soul is represented by this barley that's brought on the first day, animal food. So the purpose is not just doing a command. We're not just doing a commandment like any other commandment. We're counting the days. So we count a day. Another day we count a day. Says the Rebbe, no. If you look and you see in the Siddur, every single day is given a different aspect of the soul. Right? Chesed is kindness, 7 aspects of kindness, 7 aspects of severity, 7 aspects of beauty. And the idea is that to integrate your godly soul into your animal soul, and to use the excitement of your animal soul to elevate also the godly soul. And that is what enables a person to accept the Torah. Because the whole essence of the Torah is godliness. It's that everything is a big surprise, that our mind cannot grasp the reality of the world. But we have to try. We have to use our mind. That's what the Torah is for, to understand. So that we can use our mind to understand the Torah and to understand that we're not the boss, that God is the boss. And God will ask us to do things that we feel impossible, right? To love Him all the time, to love Him with all of our heart. Who can do a thing like that? So the only way to do it is to integrate our feeling of the infiniteness of God into our feeling of the certainty that we exist. Integrate them, then all of a sudden we become certain that God exists, and the excitement is put into the godly soul. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you very much. God bless you all.